Welcome to Cobalt Tutorials. In our previous videos, we discussed setting up your dues products. In this video, we'll discuss generating your dues. Let's begin by navigating to the dues cycle that we created. I'll go from Membership to Dues Cycles to Basic Dues Cycle. From here, I'll click More Commands and Generate Dues. This will open the dues generation wizard and run the dues diagnostic tests, or the pre-flight checklist as it's commonly called. These diagnostic tests will confirm if your dues are ready to be generated. In this case, all but one of the tests passed. I can see that the one that failed checks that all memberships in a dues schedules query are also returned in the master query. I can click the failed link to open a text file that will list all the memberships that don't fall into the master query. To correct this, I'll need to compare queries. I'll exit the wizard. Next, I'll open the dues schedule in a separate tab and open that schedule's query. I'll also open the master query on the dues cycle. Now that I have both queries open, I can see that there's a discrepancy in my criteria. In the master query, I'm filtering based on status reason of active, while in the schedule query, I'm filtering on status of active. I want to use status reason, so I'll make that change in my schedule query. In dues cycles with multiple schedules, you may have to alter multiple queries to get the right values. You may also use the text file to either correct data or determine the values to add to your queries. I'll save and navigate back to the dues generation wizard. I can now see that all the tests have passed and I can click Continue. The wizard will give this summary of dues schedules, dues items that will be generated for that schedule, default estimated price for each member, and estimated total. To get the right price value, all of your products must have a non-member price list, even if you are only charging members. If you only use the default price list, that should be fine. Click Generate Dues. The next page is a counter that can be refreshed regularly to show you how many dues items have been generated thus far. But typically, customers don't leave this open, as we'll be showing you another way to check progress that allows you to continue working in the system. Close this window. Open the Related Entities drop-down at the top and click Dues Generations. This will open a subgrid that shows dues generation records that were created. A record is created every time you open the dues generation wizard. It is advisable to remove older values, if there are any, to have the system move most efficiently. Open the most recently created record. This record will show a subgrid of dues generation batches. A batch consists of all the memberships that are found in a single dues schedule. If that schedule contains over 1,000 memberships, then more than one batch will be created so that that schedule can be broken down into groups of 1,000. This means that if you have 10 dues schedules, each with under 1,000 memberships, you'll see 10 batches. However, if one of those schedules contained 1,001 memberships, then you'd see 11 batches, one of which contains only one membership. A cron job will run every hour to process the next batch of dues. Here, within the dues generation record, we'll open the dues generation batch in a separate tab. Here we can see the dues generation, the schedule, and the dues item count, as well as a text file that will show all the dues items that have been generated. Most importantly for your dues generation, Up here you will see the status reason, which is currently pending. The status reason will be in progress when this batch is currently being generated, and completed when the batch is done. For the sake of time, we'll jump to when the dues have all been generated. Now that this batch has been processed, we can see a status reason of failed, which doesn't indicate that the entire batch failed, but only that at least one dues item failed to be generated. We can find out which ones by navigating here to Activities and opening up the note, which will show us a process log of all dues items that were created and list here at the bottom those that weren't, meaning that dues items for these two memberships were not generated. We'll worry about how to deal with issues like these in a separate video, but for now, we'll navigate back to our dues cycle where we can see that 18 dues items have been generated. Thank you for joining us for Cobalt Tutorials.